Hello, folks. It's me again, Amanda Enderman, your trusty tour guide in the wonders of the wonderful city, also known as Rio de Janeiro. You may have guessed already by looking at the title. Yes, I am going to talk about a time in Rio in which I believe not only the entire city of Rio, but it's safe to say that the entire country was in mourning. I'm going to talk about the death of our beloved first empress of Brazil, Empress Leopoldine. This is why I'm wearing black in this video, as you can see. But before I get right on to the theme of the video, I have to remind you that I'm currently offering walking tours through the city of Rio, and they are all described on my website, which the link will be in the description box below, as well as in the first fixed comment. So all you have to do is click there, contact me via WhatsApp, and let's get to know the wonders of the city of Rio in person with me, yours truly, of course. So let's readopt our more somber demeanor and let's hop on to the theme of the video. The marriage between Empress Leopoldine and Dom Pedro I was one such marriage which broke Leopoldine's heart from the get-go. Because as I mentioned in the first video that I mentioned her, which was the video speaking about the Austrian mission, which I am going to leave the link in the cards above in case you want to check that out as well. She was a very intelligent and especially very morally and ethically correct woman. She was extraordinary. I mean, I can't say enough good things about her. And she always loved the natural sciences, mineralogy, botanics, and it was very well known at the time already how exuberant Brazil's flora and fauna was. So she always had an interest in knowing more about this, maybe one day seeing that in person. So imagine her thrill when she got the news that she would be married to none other than the Prince of Brazil, Dom Pedro I, that she would be going to Brazil because of this marriage. She was over the moon with this. Not to mention that being also a very romantic woman, oh boy, she fell in love from the moment that she saw his portrait, head over heels. And on the other hand, way before he was married, he was already very well known for being a womanizer. He would but see a creature with skirts and go after her. But she thought, as did his parents, as did the whole population, they had hoped that marriage would straighten him up. Unfortunately, it didn't. Well, at least in the beginning of the marriage, he tried his best to stop womanizing and dedicating himself exclusively to her, but it didn't work. Even though she had numerous qualities, she was very inexperienced when it came to the part of the marriage which occurs within four walls, if you catch my drift. This wasn't enough to satisfy a man who had been a womanizer since he hit puberty or something like that, who had these impulses. And especially if you compare this painting, which is of both of them in 1826 already, and you take her and you compare to her portrait as a vibrant young woman before she had arrived in Brazil, all hopeful and everything, you can see the disillusion and the heartbreak in her expression. Just put yourself in her shoes. Imagine you coming to meet your future husband and marry him, all hopeful that it's gonna be a good marriage, as all marriages should be, but unfortunately it doesn't always happen. and then you discover that your husband is cheating on you time and time and time again. Of course, you're gonna be heartbroken. But even though their marriage produced several heirs, as you can also see in this painting over here of her and their children. Also, at least in the beginning, he kept his affairs in a discreet manner. He didn't parade with the mistresses in public. He didn't recognize the scores of illegitimate children that he had. They were kept in their place, so at least Leopoldine had that minimal consolation, at least until days before the independence of Brazil was proclaimed. He met Domitila de Castro Canto e Melo when he was in São Paulo, and it was an obsession. And of course, the physical instincts and the desire sent reason and decorum and good sense out the window. He made it public that he was having an affair with her. He paraded with her in the theater, in the streets of Rio, everyone knew, and he even came so far as to giving her a noble title, the title of Marquis of Santos. Parenthesis here. You may be comparing with the court of Versailles, for instance, where mistresses had to be tolerated by the queens, and everyone knew who the maîtresse en titre of the king was, and it was normal and accepted for the king to his maîtresse en titre a title of nobility. In fact, it was expected that the maîtresse en titre would be of noble birth. Furthermore, this is why Madame de Pompadour was not accepted. But in the Braganza court and in the Brazilian court as well, in the newly formed Brazilian nation, it was a totally different matter. Empress Leopoldine was very much beloved of the people. So the people were furious at Dom Pedro for having a mistress. It was the opposite. Not to mention as well that José Bonifácio de Andrade Silva, who had a lot of affection and friendship for Empress Leopoldine, was appalled with this. And even more so that she was named Marquis of Santos, which was the place where he was born. He was deeply offended. This made his relationship with Dom Pedro with Dom Pedro the First, how can I say, this put a strain on their relationship. And there are certain sources that even suggest the ludicrous theory that Empress Leopoldine and José Bonifácio de Andrade Silva had an affair outside of marriage themselves. They both were very ethical and morally correct. They would never succumb to that. Especially Empress Leopoldine. She always put reason and good judgment first and foremost. This was the kind of woman she was. Not in a million years it would have happened. Anyways, not only did he give her a title of nobility, but he also recognized their daughter, which was this young woman over here, as being legitimate by giving her a title of nobility as well. And mind you, nobility at the time was not something hereditary. And this was done on purpose by Dom Pedro I to ensure that the nobles wouldn't rebel against him. In order for someone to have a noble title, it wouldn't automatically pass on to their son or their daughter. Their son or their daughter also had to be given the title by the emperor, as if no one in the family had had the title before. Imagine all this and put yourself in poor Leopoldine's shoes. My goodness, she was devastated. By the way, remember that I told you in the video about the Austrian mission that she would go heavily pregnant from São Cristóvão all the way to Santa Cruz on horseback and catalog the sounds that the different birds would make. This was a way of her occupying herself and also trying at least to put her mind out of it for a few hours. And also because of the long absences of Dom Pedro I, even before he met Domitila. So her health even began to deteriorate with time. Furthermore, after giving birth to Pedro II, future Emperor Dom Pedro II, this is when her health went downhill. She started having severe stomach cramps, vomiting, and even hallucinating. Finally, in December 11th, 1826, she passed away. There was many speculation at the time. Some even said that Domitila, the Marquess of Santos, had arranged with the doctor who was caring for her so that he would not treat her so well or contribute so that her health would worsen. And others even said that her health deteriorated after a fight that she had with Dom Pedro in the Quinta da Boa Vista Palace. And out of this fight, she fell down the stairs. But investigations have already been done with her remains, and no broken bones were found that would prove that she had fallen down the stairs. What is believed is that it was infection worsened by her emotional state, which ultimately led to her death. And her body was originally buried in the Convento da Ajuda, which no longer exists because it was demolished in the 1920s so that the movies in Cinelandia would be built, but I will get to that in future videos, so stay tuned. But with the demolishing of this, her body was moved to the Convent of St. Anthony, and later on it was moved once again to the crypt at the Imperial Mausoleum of Ipiranga in São Paulo, and it has been there since 1954.
But Amanda, what about Dom Pedro I? How did he react to her death? Did he finally live with his mistress, the Marquis of Santos?
Actually, the answer to that would be a resounding no. In the end, it wasn't marriage that straightened him up, but it was becoming widowed that straightened him up. After Leopoldine's death, he, believe it or not, was devastated, and he finally came to his senses and saw the damage that he had done and how cruel he had been to her. Sometimes you have to lose something in order to realize how valuable that something or that someone was for you. And this was definitely the case here. He insisted that Domitila leave Rio, which she finally did in June 27th, 1828. And he tried also very hard to remarry, which was also very hard because no other princess in her right mind wanted to marry him and suffer the same fate as Leopoldine had. The damage was so great that this even made it difficult for his son, Emperor Dom Pedro II, to find a wife when it came his time to marry. And I have spoken already about his wedding in a previous video in this channel, which I will also leave the link for you up here. He finally married this woman over here, which was Amélie of Leuchtenberg. And there are no records of any cheating whatsoever by him during the time that he was married to her, which was actually until his death. Either he really didn't cheat on her, or he made it a point to be so discreet that no one ever found out. Not to mention that poor Dom Pedro II was basically born without a mother. And she tried with all her might to make this not so hard for him. She was, in all effects and purposes, very much a mother figure for Dom Pedro II. She knew that she could never replace his actual mother, but she tried to give him the comfort of a mother that he was lacking. This concludes this video about the death of Empress Leopoldine. And I forgot to mention, remember in the previous video that I said that the popularity of Dom Pedro II diminished with several different and successive things? Well, first it was the Constitution, and then it was this, and it led to a very final decision on his part. But this is the subject for future videos. So with this, This concludes this video, as I said before. And if you did like the content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and most important of all, share this video with as many people as you possibly can so that each time more people may know of the wonders of the wonderful city. And as usual in this channel, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!